Bill did. And I feel very fortunate that I was able to get that influence because I loved R&B music. R&B music, by the way, is the race records became R&B music. Jerry Wexler decided that race records sounded too controversial, so we changed it to rhythm and blues. Okay, so I like race records better. But anyway, I had several rhythm and blues hits, and that was wonderful. And here's the spirit of where it all started with that edgier stuff, the sweatier rock and roll, the rhythm and blues things. I had a country demo scheduled with Chet Atkins in the afternoon at 5 o'clock, and I started fooling around with this song, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I didn't know how to write music, and I didn't have a mini tape recorder, and I was afraid. I knew the country song backwards and forwards, but I was afraid if I didn't record this song, even though it wasn't finished at the time, that I might forget it. So instead of doing the country song, I decided to do this one. And as it turned out, as I just sang it, because I asked the engineer to turn the lights out, and as I sang it, I wrote the rest of it. It wasn't much to write, but it goes like this. Here we go. 2, 3. Wow, you made my heart sing. You make everything moving. Come on, wow, man.
Wild thing, I think I love you. But I wanna know for sure. So come on, hold me tight. I love you.
Wow, you made my heart sing. You make everything moving. Come on, wow, great. That was something. Oh, wow, thing, I think you move me. But I wanna know for sure. Come on, hold me tight. You move, wow, come on, baby. You make my heart sing. You make everything move. Come on, wow, thing. Doing all this great and wonderful off-the-wall stuff reminds me of Jimi Hendrix in Monterey. You know? But really, she's killing me tonight. Anyway, you know, the story with, I just tell you a little reflection I'm just thinking about. You know, when I was writing this song, before, okay, that's 1964 I wrote this song. So let's go back about 1963, a little before that. I had this writing space that I looked out of every day. They call it the Brill Building era. So somebody says, well, were you from the Brill Building? Well, okay. The Brill Building wasn't just the Brill Building. The Brill Building is 1619 Broadway. It is still there. It is a building. It's a gorgeous building. And that was the home of Lieber and Stoller and Freddie Beanstalk and a bunch of publishers that were terrific folks. Right up the block was 1650 Broadway. And that was the home of a lot of black publishers. And that was the home of where I was. 1650 was a cool place. And that housed a bunch of the most wonderful rock and roll that ever was. And down around one block down that way was Screen Gems, a big fancy black building that held Jerry Goffin, Carole King, Neil Sedaka. Neil Diamond was up at 1650 most of the time. So it was a wonderful, wonderful period of time to be there. But I remember one day in my writing space, I had this little, actually, because I was one of the first writers signed as a staff writer to this new publishing company, April Blackwood Music. It was brand new at the time. Now it is the most famous publishing company in the world and the biggest. It's known as EMI Music Incorporated. Anyway, back then it was a brand new company. I was one of the first writers signed, and I had a window in my place. Everybody reminds me I had the biggest little space in the whole office. And I would remember looking out the window one day around, I guess it was late 62 or 63, and I saw this guy walking around down on 53rd Street, right on Broadway, and I didn't recognize him. He looked a little strange, a little different. But I kind of looked at him, who the heck is that guy? Because he was walking with some people I knew. Next day, I saw him again. A couple of days later, I'm walking down the street, somebody says to me, "Hey, Chip, come on over. There's a new writer in town. I want you to meet Jimi Hendrix." I said, hey, Jimmy, how are you? He was a very, very nice guy, very sweet guy. And we talked for a little while, and I saw him on a few other occasions, and he was trying to be a songwriter in New York, and at 1650 Broadway. He was signed to Juggy Murray on the top floor. And then that's when somebody saw him playing guitar down in the Village and said, "The heck with the songwriting stuff, come on over here to England and we'll make you a star playing guitar." Then he started writing a little too over there for himself. But he became a star very, very, very fast in England. Nobody knew him in the States. And this was only a year and a half after I met him. But in that period of time, Wild Thing was released and went to #1 in England. And here was Jimmy becoming a star in England. And one of the most uncool things any star could ever do, then and now probably, is to cover a pop song or a #1 hit. But Jimmy didn't care. He heard Wild Thing by the Troggs, and he thought it was the best thing he ever heard. And I do too. That record, that Troggs record is one of the most amazing records. It sounded just like my demo, except it was electric, you know. I played a big open hole K guitar and stomped on the floor and banged on things. That's the Troggs covered that. But Jimmy loved the Troggs record. And so he said, "To hell with it." He kept closing his show with Wild Thing. Right? And all these cool people, "Oh yeah, that's cool." You know, it wasn't cool before he did it. Then he went to the Monterey. Now you got to understand, he still was nobody in the States, but the buzz was out for this guy, Jimi Hendrix. It was just starting to pour in. He was a star in the UK, but he wasn't a star in the States yet. But the buzz was so cool for him in Monterey. There was a big dispute between his management and the management of The Who as to who was going to close Monterey. And finally, The Who's management won. But they lost. Because when Jimmy got on the stage and he closed with Wild Thing, with what Kendall did.
I try to lead you in the groovy. But actually, the groovy, I never knew where the hell to sing it, so I can't say anybody else to sing it. But that was good. Here we go. One together. Here we go.